Hey everyone, welcome back to Holtzfeller Woodworking. My name is Allan. I have a problem. Now, I'll bet you it's the exact same problem most of you have, and that is everything needs to be charged nowadays, whether it is your multiple cameras or bike lights, earbuds, we have my daughter's watch, phone, laptop, about 1 million AA batteries for all my flash units. And of course, everything takes a different kind of battery with a different kind of charger and 1 million cables. Eventually, I'm going to redo my entire office, build a proper desk with drawers and cabinets and cubby holes, but not today. Until then, I need a temporary solution. So I'm going to build a floating wall unit cabinet charging station. I'm also going to workshop that name. That's a terrible name. I have some leftover 18 mil birch plywood. I'm going to build a carcass with a French cleat, put an oak top on it. That'll hang on the wall with some custom shelves, one specifically for my laptop. You'll recall in the last project I made, the baseball display case, I used the biscuit joiner method. For this one, I'm going to use a couple of dados, a couple of rabbits or rebates, if you're fancy, to put this together and then cover that with a Beech face frame. Let's get to it. First up is to rip all 4 sides to their proper width and then cut to length. Then cut the 6.5 millimeter slot to accept the back. It's inset 18 mils to allow for the French cleat. Do not adjust the height of the blade for the next few steps. The depth needs to be consistent. We're going to cut all 4 rabbets on our 2 side pieces next. Set the fence so the far side of the blade is the width of the plywood. Use the miter gauge for added stability. No dado blade means multiple passes until it's all cleared out. Now comes the fun part. It never used to be fun. I've struggled with accurate dados, trying a few different methods until I stumbled onto a video on Stumpy Nubs' channel outlining this simple method. Start by clamping a piece of the cross material to the fence. Then, set the fence for the top of the cut. Absolute precision is probably not that important here, as long as both sides correspond. Which they will, because we're going to cut both pieces while making sure to cut the proper end of each side. Without moving the fence, we switch out the plywood with a piece of stock that happens to be the exact same width as our saw blade. Make the second cut on both pieces. Now it will be the exact width of our crosspiece. Carefully make multiple passes, cleaning out the middle. Same procedure for the bottom dado, and we are left with this. At this point, it's a good idea for a quick dry fit. And then a light sanding on the inside. Go ahead and use a little too much glue. We want a nice even squeeze out here. I'll clean up the excess, but I'm going to paint this, so I'm not super worried about glue stains. I love these clamps. They're very easy to use one-handed. I don't think I really need the band clamp for this, but I do own it, so once that's dry, we get to work on the face frame. I have some Beech left over from a previous project, so it's just a matter of cutting to length. Start with the 2 sides, or stiles, since they run the length of the cabinet. By just using glue and clamps, you can avoid filling any brad nail holes. Once those are dry, cut all 4 cross pieces, or rails, to a snug fit. The end pieces can be clamped, but weights will have to do for the middle ones. Sand flat, and flush cut the outside. Okay, the face frame is on. The entire project has been filled and sanded, ready for paint. I've got some primer to go on first and then the final coat of paint. It's almost a shame to paint this. It's really good looking wood, but ultimately I'm kind of a snob when it comes to beech. I don't like the grain very much, so it's getting painted regardless. You can see I've installed a French cleat here, which is what I'm going to use to mount this on the wall. I've done this on multiple projects, most recently the baseball display shelf, so if you want to look back and see how I did that. On that last project, it was a much lighter unit and only going to hold 8 baseballs, not going to get a lot of daily wear and tear like this one is. So I wanted this one to be much more sturdy. The last one I installed only using glue. This one could have been glue only, probably strong enough. But just to over-engineer everything, I threw in some pocket screws. In this case, 5, which is way too many, but I'd rather be over-prepared than have a broken unit next to my shattered wall. Next up, while I'm gonna paint and prime this, I'm going to get the top ready. I have an old piece of, not old, a leftover piece of oak from a previous project, the mudroom bench, that I'm gonna knock a piece off and then thickness plane it down to the right thickness for our top up here. I like the results from a couple of thin coats of the Oslo Hartvox. Keep an old kitchen mixer attachment handy for mixing up paint. We're going to apply 1 coat of primer and then 2 coats of white paint. Okay, we had ourselves a little Überraschung right here in the middle of the project. As I was applying the first coat of finish on our oak top, I noticed a small hairline crack through a good part of it. That's no good. So what I ended up doing is snapping it all the way through, breaking it off, and then gluing it back together, which normally wouldn't be a huge deal, but I've already applied the first coat of finish. Normally I would just take it and sand it down and you'd never know anything happened. But we have this finish. If I start sanding, it's not gonna work out. I'm gonna have to clean up the edges on the Kappsäge, the miter saw, and take the front edge off, just a very fine piece on the table saw, and then looks like I'm gonna have to run it through the thickness planer just enough to clean up both sides. And then redo the routing on the edge and finish it again. But we're gonna have ourselves a good as new oak top. Okay, the unit is all painted. The top has been glued back together and refinished. A little bit thinner and smaller than when we started, but no one's gonna notice. Now it's time to attach it to the top. Now that's a very simple process. We're gonna drill some holes and then pop it on and screw it in from underneath. Oh no. Luckily, I picked up one of these units, which is gonna attach to my drill motor and allow me to screw things in on a 90. So first up, I'm gonna see exactly how far back it will reach, and that will dictate where I drill my back holes. I really wish I had pre-drilled these before assembly. We're not gonna see the tear out inside, but I'll know it's there. Carefully line up the backs and clamp securely into place. No glue, just screws for this one. We need a hole for the power outlet. Carefully measure the location, drill a pilot hole, and then the hole saw. For a clean cut, go halfway through, then flip it over and drill the rest from the other side. The French cleat makes for a very fast install. And hey, the hole lines up perfectly. Ta-da! A wall-mounted floating charging station. I added a door to the bottom here to cover up what's going to be a perpetual snake pit. Just a simple shaker-style door, which I've done in a previous video, so go back and check that out if you want to see how that's done. Thanks for watching Holtzfeller Woodworking, everyone. Stay tuned.